think that'll do. That'll go close.
Two electronic engineers might have just solved one of the biggest problems with air conditioning. And big AC companies hate this, but there's nothing they can do about it.
The future of America, and we'll talk some prophecy. Rabbi Johnathon Cahn joins us with his latest work, The Avatar, The Return of the Ancients and Future of America, and we'll talk some prophecy in just a moment on Coast to Coast AM. And welcome back to Coast. George Norrie with you. Johnathon Cahn back with us, was named, along with Billy Graham, as one of the most spiritual leaders to have radically impacted the world, having spoken on Capitol Hill, the United Nations, and the millions around the world. Noted author. His latest work is called The Avatar, The Return of the Ancients and the Future.
Hi, Diane. New handle, I see.
Welcome back, my friend.
Great to be back, George. Always a blessing.
How have you been, Rabbi?
Good. Been crazy, busy, running around, with the books and everything else, but good.
I remember back a few years ago when we debuted you with The Harbinger. That book took off like a rocket ship, didn't it?
Yeah. It was the first book I ever wrote. I mean, yeah.
How did you get interested in biblical prophecy?
Well, first of all, George, I was originally an atheist, and growing up in a Jewish home, and when
they changed my name too. Oh, I wonder why they done that, Di.
I was about 8 years old, I became an atheist. I said, okay, I don't see God here, so I just didn't believe. But then I said, there's got to be more. There's got to be something to everything. There's got to be a reason. So I started seeking everything I could find on truth. I got books on UFOs, books on Nostradamus, books on science, religion. One day I picked up a book that was called The Late Great Planet Earth by Hal Lindsey. And it was all about biblical prophecy that was coming true now. I never heard anything like it before. That actually in the Bible, it speaks of what is called the end times, and it's actually coming true.
Diane, what about Pope Leo meeting King Charles? Wow, for the first time in 500 years, a sitting monarch visited the Catholics. Wow, it's really ramping up, isn't it?
With a real current event. So I just never heard that. So that just totally changed my mind. I started telling my friends about it and the whole thing, but I never wanted to actually follow God. I had a rock band. I was doing what a teenager does and all that. So I made a deal with God. I said, if you give me a long life, I'll accept you when I'm on my deathbed. And soon after that, I almost got killed twice.
Oh,
and the second time, I was hit by a locomotive train. I was heading to a track, and I see a light. Everybody was crossing.
Geez, not many survived getting hit by a damn train.
Maybe it was broken, but I didn't want to cross until anyway. I tried to back up, but it was just crazy. Anyway, so the train came, plowed into a Ford Pinto, which was like aluminum foil, and I just called out to God. The car was destroyed, and I didn't get a scratch. So I said, okay, I'll make a new deal with you. Can we renegotiate here? I'll accept you when I turn 20. So my 20th birthday, no.
Diane, did you see Britain still rioting? They're running amok there.
How to do anything. I just said, I remember Moses went up a mountain. So I found a mountain. I went up to the top of it, kneeled down, gave my life to the Lord. And that's how it really began. And so it really, really started from an atheist, started with the reality of end-time prophecy, that things are happening, and it hasn't stopped. It hasn't stopped since then.
It's gotten even more intense, hasn't it?
Yep.
Totally. I mean, it's barely, I don't know that a day goes by where I don't see more and more and more. George, I always think I'm gonna, okay, I'm gonna run out. Is there gonna be nothing? It never runs out because it just keeps happening. And we are truly in pivotal times.
Johnathon, your new book is called The Avatar, The Return of the Ancients and the Future of America. Explain the title for us.
Yeah, well, first of all, an avatar is, we hear this a lot. It's not the movie. It's not there's a computer, we use it with computers, but avatar comes from from India, basically. The idea that the gods or spirits have manifestation, that someone can be a representative or a embodiment or an image or a vessel of a spirit or God. And this is all over all over the ancient world. I spoke about the return of the gods, how we're dealing with these things in our world right now, and with spiritual things. But could there actually be people with that? And the thing is that the Avatar, I got to say, George, I mean, and I've been on with you ever since I first wrote a book with the Harbinger, and I've written some explosive books. I believe this is the Avatar is the most
Hi, Jesus King. Welcome back.
explosive book
Is that you, Shawnee?
I've ever written. And it just literally came out like right now, and I don't even know what's going to happen. And there are things I can't even say publicly that are there in there. But it's removing the veil behind everything that's happening, behind what's happening in the political realm, the cultural realm, everything. That there are spiritual things at work. There are mysteries at work. There are prophecies at work. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. And we are all dealing with it, whether we know it or not. There is a template from ancient template or mystery that actually reveals the specific leaders, the patterns, the political leaders, cultural leaders, dates. I mean, exact events. So the Avatar is really opening us up. It's really an explosion, and even the question, and could there be actually people who are embodying?
We pretty much did straight away, didn't we?
These forces, so it's real, and it's explosive.
We're seeing countries like Russia, China, India, Iran, North Korea, all teaming together for really one of the first times ever this way to team up against us primarily, Jonathan. Do you sense that something drastic could happen?
Yeah. This is, I mean, one, we are watching. We've all lived. Most of us were born in, what was called the American age. After the World War II, this is where America just dominated. Well, that's been challenged more and more recently, and we are. I mean, and more seriously. And the thing is that actually the Bible speaks about an event. I mean, where it actually names names. This is in Ezekiel 38 and 39, gives ancient names of nations. And one of them, is linked, has long been linked to Russia. Another has been linked, another is the ancient name for Iran. Another one is Turkey, which is also, by the way, at these meetings. There's a new alliance, and there's several other nations that are mentioned in Ezekiel 38 and 39.
Yeah, Diane, I'll play that in the second half. King Charles meeting Leo. The false prophet meets the Antichrist. And that's the first time they've met in 500 years.
And they're actually in now for the first time, as you said, first time ever in alliance. And as far as China, there actually is a biblical word for it. And in the book of Revelation, it talks about an army from the east or the Orient, which boasts 200 million people. Now, there's no army in the world except that China could boast that. So yes, it's lining up, and it is aligning with what we believe is the next gigantic event, which is the invasion.
YouTube's changed all our names.
Of the Alliance of Nations spoken of in Ezekiel.
Dramatic. Now the scriptures also talk about gods of the ancient world. Who or what were they?
Well, the thing that people don't realize is, we hear about gods. We think, okay, it's mythology, and yeah, of course it is. There is mythology, but what people don't know is that from ancient times, the Bible uses a word to speak about the gods, which is not just mythology, but the word in Hebrew is shedim, and shedim does not mean a myth. It means entities. It means spiritual forces. And this word was translated into that's in the Hebrew scriptures. It was translated into the New Testament, and it became the word daimonia, which we get the word demon from. And then what the Bible is saying, first off, is that behind this, the realm of all the gods and mythology, there are real forces, real entities, and they exist, with will and volition, and we ignore this to our peril. And whether a Christian version would be looking at this as demonic manifestation, but the thing is that I've gone to the nations, and in virtually every nation where they worship gods, you see these manifestations, which would look like possession and things like that. There is something very real, and actually in the Avatar, it's the first time I don't just talk about the gods. I actually share some encounters I had with these forces when I went to the nations. But this ultimately also will link up with America.
You went to India some time ago. What happened there?
Yeah, well, I was invited to go to India, and the Christians of India traced their faith to the Apostle Thomas, that he brought the gospel there. So they asked me to come as a Jewish believer and walk in the footsteps of the Apostle Thomas. It was the most dangerous thing I ever did in my life. And it was, first of all, India is a land of 30 million gods, and there are spiritual things going on. And I have never, first of all, seen what is called spiritual warfare as I did then. We were almost killed several times on this journey. It was the most dangerous thing, not just spiritual things, but in the physical as well. There was persecution, and it was a journey. It was just a dramatic journey where if it was, I didn't think I would get out alive. But the thing is, at the end, I am standing before 70,000 Indians, and it is nighttime, and they're and I'm going to share a message with them. I said, before I share the message, let me just sound. I had a shofar. That's the trumpet of the Bible. And it's speaking in the Bible. God speaks and says that when you sound this, I'm going to show my power. Well, I didn't know what was going to happen, but I sounded it, and then what happened? We don't know what happened. I mean, it was like we were hit with this wave, and I can only describe it if you could imagine being at an exorcism, except it multiply that by thousands of times. So we're seeing it was like a mass exorcism, and people are screaming, and and the thing is, George, I didn't know. I mean, first of all, there's a scripture that says when you're in war, sound the shofar, and you'll have victory. Well, the shofar or the trumpet has been used in exorcisms in the Jewish world for ages, but the people in India didn't know that, and they're not reading those books on it. But that was the reaction. It was like a wave of spiritual things, and I have never seen anything like it. And the point is, everywhere I went in every nation, for whether it was Cuba, when Fidel Castro,
Hey, Vas, good to see you, bro.
To go there, your communist, or Brazil or Nigeria, I saw the same manifestation. So the first thing to say here is that these things are there's a reality. These things are real. The Bible says it, but also this is believed all over the world. But there are real forces, and these things are going to ultimately have to do with America. Could they actually be affecting America now? Could they be affecting our political realm? And the answer, the avatar is going to open it up that the answer is yes.
Is biblical prophecy obvious, or do you have to dig for it?
I think it's a great question. I think some things are obvious, like when it talks about, it says in the end days, one of the biggest signs is that Israel is going to reappear in the world, and the Jewish people are going to be gathered from the ends of the earth, and the world is going to be against Israel. Well, that's pretty obvious. I mean, to me, that's pretty obvious. It's pretty unmistakable. But then there are other things. There are all sorts of connections, whether it's the book of Revelation, whether it's the prophets, that sometimes you have to piece together. And sometimes you don't know until things happen, and then you say, whoa, wait a minute, that's lining up with this. There are many things that, the Bible actually speaks of Iran, or Persia, which is Iran, in the end times. And several things have happened in recent times that align with what it said. So sometimes
Yeah, Vas, I even had to re-sign in this morning to YouTube. And look at our handles. They've changed our handles.
It's got to be the right time. But other things we do know are coming.
Something strange happened at the Olympics in Paris. We'll talk about that with Johnathon Cahn when we come right back on Coast to Coast AM. And welcome back, George Norrie, along with Johnathon Cahn. We're talking about his latest work, The Avatar.
Vas, there's a time I used to do 5 hours a day streaming. I'm battling to find content for 2 hours a day now. That's why I only go 2 hours.
Are the Return of the Ancients and the Future of America. Johnathon, last year in Paris, something very strange happened at the Olympics. Tell us what it was.
To set the stage, actually very profound. And many of us saw, they were shocked, but it was very profound.
The gays at the Last Supper.
Set the stage. There is a parable in that given by Jesus, which says that a man was possessed and he was delivered of that. It was cast out, the spirit, but he remained empty inside. He wasn't filled by God, and so the spirit returns, finds him basically an empty vessel, brings 7 other spirits and repossess him. And now people think, okay, that's about a guy. No, Jesus said, "So it will be with this generation." And what this is about, it's about civilization. It's about our nation right now. When the gospel came into the ancient world, it basically exorcised it. The gods were driven out, and biblically that means the spirits were driven out. So Western civilization has been unique in that it was the only civilization totally, in a sense, exorcised. So of these things, or unpaganized. Well, the warning is, though, that any nation or civilization or culture, if it has been delivered of these things and known God, if it should ever turn away from God or empty itself of God, it'll become an empty house, but the house won't stay empty. What was cast out of it will come back into it. And so, in other words, the spirits or gods that were cast out of our civilization will in some way come back. And the amazing thing is what we've been witnessing for the last, half century, since I'd say the early 60s, we've been driving God out of America and the West. And what's happened is other things have come in, and we're watching it. If you look at our culture,
that's true. Since the hippie era, we've been driving God out of society. That's really true.
What's happened up until recently, it's been a repaganization, or you could call it a repossession, where you can actually identify these things, whether it's in the realm of sexuality, whether it's in the realm of life, it doesn't matter. All these things are in the direction of paganism. So here's the thing. So we're watching the Olympics, and by the way, the Olympics come from a pagan origin. To begin, we know that they were actually a religious festival to Zeus. And I'm not condemning it, but that's the origin. But at the open,
Diane, is that in America? 42 million are going to go without food.
Ceremony, something that shocked the world. They have the Last Supper, and basically, it's kind of like, you could call anything blasphemy.
Diane, Trump's got to do something about that. If that's true, he's got to step in and do something about it.
Or sacrilege. That was that. They made a mockery of the Last Supper, and then instead of where the elements that represent Jesus, which is the bread and the wine, they have a platter of food. They open the platter up, and instead of something representing Jesus, they have a pagan god on the table, and the god is actually the god Dionysus. And so what they were doing, in the beginning of the age, basically Jesus, drove out, or the gospel drove out Dionysus and all these gods. Well, if you turn away from God, the opposite is going to happen. What they did is they replaced Jesus on the Last Supper with a pagan god. And it's actually very profound, because that is what has been happening in our culture. And it's actually a very dangerous thing, and it even links. It's going to sound wild, but it actually links up even with Adolf Hitler.
Dad, I'm sick.
UpDoc makes healthcare seriously accessible. It's the platform that connects you to an experienced doctor within the hour. Convenient when you're busy.
Request a consultation now at updoc.com.au.
Namaste.
Bravo.
Real Money Transfer has been crowned 2025 We Money.
Made everything a lot easier to expand, to add a technician, to add a team member in the office.
How so?
Well, Joe, not everybody knows this, but there was a guy who did what the Olympics just did, which is replacing Jesus with Dionysus. His name was Friedrich Nietzsche. He was a German philosopher. He lived in the 19th century.
Right.
And Nietzsche's, of course, he's famous for saying God is dead.
Diane, I agree with us. If they go without food, that will bring the riots, the proper riots. Wow, guys, look where we're at.
And he wrote all these books saying, get rid of Jesus, get rid of Christianity, get rid of God. And he also, what people don't know, he also venerated the god Dionysus, who was the god of the Olympics. Now, Dionysus was the god of frenzies and drunkenness and possession. And he drove his followers insane. Well, what happens to Nietzsche, Friedrich Nietzsche, is he as he's writing, he goes insane. And he starts signing, instead of signing his name as Nietzsche, he signs his name as Dionysus, as if he was taken over. He even spoke about being possessed. So this is what happened to Nietzsche. Now, Nietzsche's writings go on, even though he went crazy. His writings go on, and one of the people who picks us up is this painter from Vienna, whose name is Adolf Hitler. Adolf Hitler takes Nietzsche's philosophy and he applies it to Germany. And so Nietzsche becomes the philosopher of the Third Reich. And what they do is they basically got rid of Jesus, Christianity, and they replaced it with a pagan ideology. And the result was the Holocaust. The result was World War II. The result was death. Well, this is a warning. I mean, look, George, look at Russia. When they took out God, what happened there? It always results in death. So this is a warning to where we are right now. If we go in this direction, it doesn't end well.
But Russia was once a very religious country, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, listen, Russia, yeah, they consider
The Orthodox Russian Church was pretty strong in its day.
they would call it Holy Russia or Mother Russia, the Holy Russia. They believed they were really the keepers, the guardians of Christianity. But again, and it's amazing because it goes back to
Diane, they're going to have to rob the grocery stores. If they've got no food and no chance of getting food, they'll have no choice but to do that.
Who's that, Colin?
What do you mean?
Who's got no food?
that
Oh, people in America.
ancient warning or the ancient parable. If you have known these things and you
Mum was just asking me what's going on.
empty yourself of God, you're not going to stay empty. So what comes in? It comes in the name of communism, and communism comes in as if it was secular, but it never ends up neutral. I mean, what happens is they kill millions and millions of their own people. I mean, that happened in Russia, happened in China.
Yeah.
Every single time this happens, when you drive out God, drive out the gospel, what comes out, I mean, the best word for it is demonic. And that's exactly what we have witnessed.
Jonathan, what is the template of the kings, and how does that tie into this?
Well, it's amazing things. One of the things I open up in the Avatar is that there's an ancient template in the Bible, and that it has to do with the kings and queens of Israel who were there when Israel turned away from God. And here's the amazing thing. Each king is a prototype or for a leader now in America. I mean, it's so precise that it foreshadows. I'm not saying it was prophesying it. It's a pattern. It's a template. God puts this in there. It foreshadows specific leaders for specific events in America. Even gives dates with some of the most recent leaders. It gives the exact time they will be on the national stage. For instance, one of the things we'll go into whatever detail you want to go into, but it's an amazing template, and it actually foreshadowed and foretold 9/11 down to the exact day and down to the exact hour. I mean, it sounds wild, but this is I bring it out. In the Avatar, this is actually real. Even the mystery of Osama bin Laden. I mean, virtually most of the presidents. It's amazing.
Tell us a little bit more about that, John.
Okay. Example. Okay. There was, and this is not, and we're not getting political. This is just about the leaders. First of all, there's an ancient king in this template who basically becomes the prototype of Bill Clinton. He follows this without meaning to. Nobody knows what they're doing here, but it's a king who had scandals and all sorts of things. But the thing is that he follows it almost exactly his whole presidential career. But the thing is that Bill Clinton was on the
Diane, that's Section 8. Is that like our unemployment benefits? We get the dole if you're unemployed here. I think it's about $750 a fortnight, which would be about $400 US.
national stage as governor, political stage from governor to the end of his presidency for 22 years. This ancient king in the Book of Kings was on the national stage for exactly 22 years. One who follows this king is an ancient king named Joram, is actually going to be the template that Obama follows. And this ancient king, Obama was on the national political stage for 12 years, from the convention to the end of his presidency. So Joram on the national stage for 12 years. Hillary Clinton there's a queen in there who is who is in this template on the national stage with her husband for 22 years, and then on her own and in political life for a total of 14 years. So was the ancient queen. This even has the mystery of Donald Trump. And again, it's not political. It doesn't matter what people think about it. But the thing is, there's a guy named Jehu. And Jehu is wild, unpredictable. You never know what he's going to say next. This is Trump. He makes an alliance with the religious conservatives of the land. He has an agenda to drain the swamp of the capital city. What he does when he comes to power is he purges the government. He dismantles, institutions. In order to come to power, he comes to contend against the nation's former first lady. Think about Hillary Clinton, and overcomes. In fact, the template even gives the time period Donald Trump will be on the national stage. So it's real mind-boggling. But I'm just giving you the overview. But every single detail, including 9/11, is there. Let me give you one quick thing on that, and that is that the 9/11 thing is this. When that ancient king, who's a prototype, who's linked to the Clinton years, there's a scandal, and he confesses it. 3 years later, a calamity comes on the nation, and it's an enemy strike. Well, Bill Clinton, as we all know, there was a scandal, and he confessed it. Well, when he confessed it later on, if you take that date and you count the 3 years of the template, it lands exactly on September.
Diane, in here in Australia, if you've got a housing commission house, you pay 25% of whatever you make off the dole or market value, whichever's cheapest.
September 11th, where a calamity comes.
I've got to give them this. They do look after our homeless here. We haven't got a big problem.
Of the nation, it actually lands on the exact hour that 9/11 begins. I mean, it is mind-boggling. And here's the thing, George, it's still coming true to this day. So this is one of the things I was led to open up in the Avatar.
Jonathan, many people believe, perhaps yourself included, that we're living in end times. What do you think?
Absolutely. Well, the Bible gives exact signs of what the end times will be. I mean, the first thing we touched on before, but it's got to be this. If you didn't have Israel in the world, then someone you can argue. Okay, well, maybe. Well, once you have this is exactly what it says. The Bible says that. But also that so one thing is Israel, but another thing is that it says also in that day it talks about knowledge increasing. It talks about technology. I mean, things that require technology. For instance, you read the book of Revelation, you read prophecy. It speaks of events taking place, in one part of the world, and the whole world is watching it at the same moment. That could only be true in the 21st or 20th and 21st century. With the technology, another thing it says that no man will buy or sell except with this mark. Now, we believe that could be a code, that could be a chip. But the thing is that you could not ever do that without the technology that we are only kind of stumbling on right now. It also talks about morality. So the thing is, it talks about, as we mentioned before, it talks about China. Believe it talks about Russia, even Europe. Interesting because it doesn't specifically say America, which would tell us that in the end times, America will not remain the power it is. So every single biblical marker is either is either fulfilled or moving in the direction of what the biblical prophecy ordains.
Wormwood is a bitter plant in the Middle East, of course, but there's more of a mystery to that, isn't there?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well. Okay. This goes with something else. One of the things you see in end time prophecy is that, and the Bible's very clear about it. It says,
Diane, with that Section 8, where Trump's going to kick them out of their homes, I think you've got enough problems with homeless people as it is. I don't know what the solution is there, but they can't just let them run onto the streets and run amok.
That it says in the end times, it talks about the world. It talks about destruction coming through fire, and with fire, it actually there's a scripture that said right now we have the power to destroy the earth through nuclear weapons. And the thing is, it says in scripture, it says that Jesus said in the end times the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. Now the word for heavens there in the Greek is orania, which we get the word uranium. So literally the word uranium, the powers of this shall be shaken. It also says in the book of Peter, it says that the elements will melt or the elements will be loosened, which is again something that goes along with nuclear destruction. But now wormwood. It says in Revelation that this star, that often can mean a light. John is watching this vision and he's describing it as he sees a light coming down to earth, and then he sees it's called wormwood, and it poisons the earth. It poisons the waters. Well, we did see one famous event of nuclear poisoning more than anything, and it happened in Russia. And of course, it's called Chernobyl, as we all know.
Well, Diane, Trump is ruthless.
This meltdown happens, and it poisons everything. It was the closest we came to a large scale nuclear.
Maybe kick them out of their homes and put the homeless on the street. Put them in the houses. Maybe swap them.
They're poisoning. Well, it's Chernobyl, but Chernobyl means wormwood, the very name given in Revelation of that which poisons. So therefore, it'll again assign that even Chernobyl in Russian is wormwood, which speaks of this. And actually, you know what, George? If you go to Chernobyl, you'll see a statue there, which is of the seventh angel from Revelation sounding the trumpet and ushering in wormwood.
No
What
way.
is the mystery of the age of end times, and what is the hour that you talk about, a prophetic hour?
Well, a few things. First of all, one of the things, by the way, this is, I don't know, George, if you've been aware of it, but recently on the internet, there's been a big buzz going on that they believe the rapture is going to come, in September. And I don't believe that's to be the case. But there's a mystery to this that actually links up with that may give us also ideas of timing. And one of the things is that in the Hebrew, the holy days of the Hebrew year actually foreshadow the way the end comes. If you look at the autumn of the holy years of Israel, of the Jewish holidays, it starts with trumpets. And when you read all these things that are going on in end time prophecy, the sign is trumpets, the rapture, the coming of trumpets. So could the return, could the end times, could the final events fall on these Hebrew holy days like the Feast of Trumpets? It could. After that, you have Yom Kippur, which is the day of the Lord, where you stand face to face with God. That aligns with what the Bible calls the day of the Lord, or the coming, or the second coming. Then you have the last feast is called Tabernacles, which foreshadows the kingdom of God. So all these things, the amazing thing is that in the first coming of Jesus, every major thing happened on the Hebrew holy day in the spring, from the spring. Well, now the ones that are not fulfilled are all for the autumn. So it is actually possible that these things may actually take place on these appointed holy days of God.
Jonathan, does any of this scare you?
No, George. Well, I'll tell you that. If I was the way I was before, if I was an atheist, I'd be scared. If I didn't know God, if I didn't come to God, if I wasn't born again and said, Lord, I'm gonna come into my life, yeah, then I'd be scared. But I'm not, because listen, if you know the author of the play, you don't fear the end of the play. And the other thing is, when you watch a movie, what's the most exciting part? The last 15 minutes. So I don't fear the last 15 minutes. I mean, because I have a part. We have a part. If you're following God, you got a part to play. So listen, it doesn't matter whether it's light or dark out. We're supposed to be lights to the world.
Jonathan, why does it seem America is so predominant in biblical prophecy?
Well, America is predominant in the world as the head of nations, and that puts it already in a class by itself. Also, America was dedicated to God. I mean, more than most nations. I mean, it existed for that purpose. So everything with America, as you know, George, when I first came on, a lot of the books I've written are speaking about the mysteries. It's the world, but particularly with America, because America was actually founded after the pattern of ancient Israel, and it said, and actually a kind of prophetic word was given to it by one of its founding fathers, John Winthrop, who said that if we follow the ways of God, we will be blessed as Israel was blessed. But he said, they missed the but. But if we turn away from God, then the judgments that came on Israel will come upon us. And so that's where things like the harvest and all these biblical things, we're kind of replaying what happened when Israel turned away from God. And it's a warning, on one hand. I mean, there's also a hope to it. And you asked, in the last part, like, what's the prophetic hour? One of the things that all this is leading to, and one of the reasons that I was led to write the Avatar, it leads to this, that we are in a window of time now, America, particularly, where we can head to either judgment or redemption. And there's a big if. It depends on what we do now.
King Jehu, who was in the 800 BC era, king of Israel, right?
Yep.
There's a mystery of him. What is that?
Well, Jehu is that. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, because Jehu is this foreshadow of what we are watching with Donald Trump, and he's wild, not a politician, not a likely person on one hand, but he was used, and it was used to, when the nation was about, was in a position where it was about to fall. Or actually was going to go totally away from God, God raises up this unlikely person and kind of roll it back. And he was extreme. The amazing thing is that, let me tell you this. This is, how, Trump began the whole thing coming on the top of the stairs. He began, he's on top of the stairs. He descends the stairway and then begins his race. Well, that actually Jehu begins his race on top of the stairs, comes down, begins this race, and Jehu contends. It's an interesting thing. He always contends against a woman, in coming to power. And so it's interesting. The pattern of Trump is that it's not that Trump is reading the script. He's reading studying the Hebrew. We don't know that, but the pattern is when he contends against a woman candidate, he wins, and that's the template of Jehu. And so he's a very interesting person, whatever you think about him. By the way, when you look at the ancient commentaries on Jehu, the biblical commentary, they're divided. It's a matter of controversy, but he was used. So, I mean, and by the way, there's even a mystery with Donald Trump on the day of his birth.
Diane, the lefties are going mad about that ballroom that Trump's pulled down. They're going mad about it. They're so cranky. He's taking money off us, but he can spend $200 billion on a dance hall.
Where there was a scripture appointed for that day, which has to do with it. So, I don't think he planned it. I really don't. But, God is God.
Tell us about the ancient mystery of 9/11, that date.
Well, 9/11, there is so much to this, and that with 9/11, I mean, first of all, when Israel, we talked about what happened with America and how it's following this thing. Well, when Israel turned away from God, okay, and we've been watching this turn in America. What happened was there was a warning that came upon the land, and the warning came upon the land in the form of a strike of an enemy. That was limited, it was temporary, but it was a shakeup. It was a warning saying, "Come back before." That judgment doesn't come. It was a shake-up ball. It's part of a biblical pattern. And the thing is that from that, the powers, one of the patterns of when a nation is being shaken or called back is that it touches the foundation of the nation's power. Now, let me give you an example. The foundation of America's global military power happened with the Pentagon. 1941, we enter the war and we start building the Pentagon, which is going to be the beginning of American superpower. Well, when was the Pentagon? When did it begin? When did that all begin? It's a specific day that they broke the ground. It was 9/11. The power of America, the military began on 9/11, and so the Pentagon was struck on 9/11. Now, as far as the economic rise of America, it began much earlier. It was New York was always the center of it. New York was America's economic power. Well, when was New York discovered? When did it begin? It was when Henry Hudson came up. When was it? It was 9/11. So, I mean, there are so many mysteries to this, but there are signs here, George, that when it's like a wake-up call, and I don't know that we've woken up yet.
Let's go to the phones. Let's go to Thomas in La Jolla, California to get us started. Hi, Tom.
Hi, George. Thank you for accepting my call. And I want to compliment you and your team. You bring such interesting guests and interviews. Jonathan, I want to thank you for bringing some very interesting information to the table, to the audience of Coast to Coast. And my question is this. Scripture was originally in Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek.
Jonathan Cahn's been doing this a few years now. I've never seen anyone really debunk him.
What we now know as Scripture is we know through the English translations. And like King James Version or the Catholic Bible or the American Standard, that type of thing. And this is a friendly question. If we are to get an accurate view of Scripture, of what's written there, which Scripture specifically is accurate and true? And I know this may be your opinion, but I'm curious on that. And I have a quick second question if we have time.
Yeah. Well, a few things. Yes, you're right about the Bible being in the original language of Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek. Now, so one hand, I mean, listen, when I study it, when I get into like deep, I always seek to go with the original language. So I study that. But not everybody, everybody's sort of different time. First of all, there are computer programs where you can see the original language and you can see what's behind it. So that's really the best way to get into it. But there are a lot of good translations. And now listen, one Hebrew word can mean 12 different things, so not every translation can get all that, but it doesn't mean it's not accurate. And some translations are called dynamic, where they're more getting to the spirit of it, and others are more literal, getting to word by word. For instance, New American Standard is more literal. New NIV, the New International, is more dynamic. But it's not that one. I mean, most of these versions are good versions. Not all, but most of them are good versions. But if you want to get, so there are a lot of good. But if you want to get deeper, then you want to do word studies and get into the original language.
All right, great. Let's go back to Tom's second question. Go ahead, Tom.
Hi, George. My second question is, you were mentioning the shofar, the trumpet. Are there audio recordings of the shofar that are available that we can play over our sound systems?
Well, I'm seeing like wild things happen when the shofar is sounded. I'm not saying it always is, and it's God who's the power, not the thing. But there are certainly recordings of the shofar. You might want to go online and see that. It's interesting that we talk about the shofar and which is trumpet. And we've got a president right now whose name is Trump. And by the way, what I alluded to, when Trump was born, he was born on a Friday, which ushers in the Sabbath. There's an appointed word for every Sabbath, from ages past. There's actually a scripture appointed for the time of his birth. What was it? It says in that scripture, God says, bring forth the vessel, or bring forth a trumpet. So there is something to it. But anyway, you can find recordings of it. It's online.
Next up, first time caller David in Idaho. Welcome to the show. Hi, David.
Thank you. I just got one question.
Sure.
Do you think Trump is the Antichrist?
You think Trump is the Antichrist, Jonathan?
Okay. Well, no, I don't. Listen, there are those who say because he's kind of powerful, and because he says the Antichrist, it talks about having a head wound in Revelation, that one gets a head wound and then comes back alive, and so they see, the assassination attempt. And there is, by the way, a mystery behind that assassination attempt that goes back to an ancient priesthood. It's one of the things I bring out in the Avatar. But the thing is that it wasn't like he died or got near death. So, there are people who see it as shadows, but no, I don't believe the Antichrist is going to be someone who's been on a reality TV show. I don't believe that. Trump is Trump.
Leviticus code. What is that?
Oh, okay. In Leviticus, early book of the Bible, of course, it gives what's called the Jubilee, the ordinance of the Jubilee. And the Jubilee is that where it says that you in the year of Jubilee, which is the 50th year, you will return home. Whatever you lost your land, year of Jubilee, you return home. Now, there's no people who have so lost their land for thousands of years as the Jewish people that they were wandering the earth. But could there be a mystery in this? Well, the amazing thing is that in the ordinance for the Jubilee, which is about returning to your land, it is the way God says, he says, you shall return. First time he says it to the whole nation, you shall return. Well, in Hebrew, that's just one word. It's teshavu. Well, now in Hebrew, every letter is a number. I mean, that's how they number things. It actually is a number. Now, there are people who go crazy with this, but there is something real here. And that is when you add up the numbers of Tishavu, which means you shall return, it actually comes out to the year 1948, which is the year that Israel returned.
Wow.
Next up, let's go to Jeremy in North Dakota. Hi, Jeremy. Go ahead.
Hello, Jonathan. I have a very odd thing happened to me. On December 8, 2003, or 21 years ago, I was in a near-fatal auto accident. Immediately, I was in a coma for 2.5 months. When I woke up,
Shawnee, I've played him a couple of times.
Just before I woke up from my coma, I was under the impression that I was walking up a mountain pathway cliff with my wife at the time, now ex-wife. And as we were nearing the top of the mountain, it started to shake and a bunch of boulders started falling. And I found a cave crevice to guide her into to protect her. And just after I got her inside, I was impacted by a giant boulder and knocked off the cliff. And as I was falling down to the ground, which I thought would be my death, I heard a voice from the sky that said, Jeremy, your tasks are not complete yet. And just after I heard that, I thought I was impacted the ground. I woke up in the jolt of my hospital bed in Castle, Wyoming.
Was that the voice of God, Jonathan?
Well, it could be, I mean, it sounds like it. It's hard to judge a thing except he experienced it himself. There's a lot of parallels that people say when they go into comas or they go into, or literally death. I mean, and I've known people where, the heart stopped and everything stopped. And they said they were watching it. They were above their body watching it, or they went, to a glimpse of heaven, and God said, or this voice said, you're not, it's not finished. You've got work to do. So this is consistent with many other testimonies along those lines.
Let's go to Cleveland, Ohio. AC's with us now. Hello there, AC.
Hello, George, and hello, Jonathan.
Hey.
Gee, Vas, that looks interesting, that UFO one you just posted.
You see.
Two things. First of all, the Bible, concerning Bible versions, the King James Version is the only Bible version out there that has no copyright on the text. And nobody profits from it. So that should tell people about the accuracy. The question I have for you, Jonathan, I have one of your books, and you mentioned the rat.
Yeah, Diane, I will do Mike tomorrow.
Sure.
Or should I leave it the next day because he comes on so late?
And Jesus clearly taught in the Olivet Discourse about a pre-tribulation rapture. Do you believe in the rapture, and what is your view on the timing of the rapture? Because there's a number of different views out there, but Jesus clearly taught the pre-tribulation rapture.
Yeah, well, the rapture is biblical.
Oh, today's Friday, isn't it?
You can't argue it away. It says they will be caught up. And, and there's a few scriptures along those lines. As far as for those who don't know this thing, there are three general views on it. One is pre-tribulation, as you're saying. The other is post-tribulation, at the end of the tribulation period. By the way, for those who don't know what that is,
Diane, is he on soon?
which is the 7-year period it's spoken about, in the last 7 year before the return. And then there's mid-trib, which is the middle of tribulation. Those are the three main ones. I choose, I appreciate what you're saying. I choose to, I'm pan-trib, which means I believe it's all going to pan out in the end. That's my public stance. So I don't get in publicly into that. I respect people on that, but I respect, as you're saying, the Bible doesn't outright say, okay, it's this, but it does give evidence. So there are different views on this, and I have to respect that.
It's truly
Yeah.
incredible how close
Yeah, I was just playing the Moradai. That's what I was working out.
it matches what's happening in real life, Jonathan.
Well, that
Yeah, no, I'll show him tomorrow.
is what has struck me, because George, when I told you, like, going from atheist to reading The Late Great Planet Earth by Hal Lindsey and seeing about biblical prophecy. Since then, I mean, it's only gone in that direction. There are and again, I had to be convinced. I was an atheist. I had to be convinced, and so I couldn't argue with it. It wasn't that I wanted it; I couldn't argue with it, and all the more it just keeps moving forward. And the Bible says, it says that God gives signs so that we don't come unprepared.
Where do people get your book, The Avatar, and all your other publications?
Well, thank you, George. Yeah, The Avatar is everywhere now. Best thing, go online. If you go on Amazon or you go on any place you get books, you'll see it. It looks like, don't mistake it for the Avatar movie, because it's got to say Jonathan Cahn on it. But also,
I thought the Avatar movie was a dud anyway. I only watched the first one.
people get it for get it for friends, people who need to know and wake up. We're just touching the surface. It's so explosive we can't even say much of it. But the other books are also online. If you go on Amazon or any place, you'll see. This is the 10th book. I started with the first book on Coast to Coast, and this is now the 10th.
And you don't stop.
Yeah, Vas, I'll do him tomorrow.
Do you?
I can't because I don't know how much time I have. And the thing is that I have in my head, George, I have like at least 10 more books to write. So I have to do it. I have to keep going.
But we should not be afraid of end times.
No, well, it's listen, it depends what side of the equation you're on. I mean, if for the believer, the end time is going to lead to something good. So you got to go through the night to get to the morning, but the morning's coming for those who are of the morning. So yeah, we don't fear. Listen, I mean, for everybody out there, you love Jesus. Well, this is about him coming, so it's not a bad thing, but. Sometimes you got to go through the night before you get to the morning.
I'm telling them upstairs I know Rabbi Johnathon Cahn, though. Hope maybe they can get me in quicker, huh?
Yeah, Don, I'll just play him tomorrow.
I can't do that, but you know what? I know a rabbi who can get you in, and that's Rabbi Jesus.
Thank you for that, though.
No rush, but when the time comes, we're going to come back and take final calls with Johnathon Cahn in just a moment, right here on Coast to Coast AM. Welcome back, Johnathon Cahn with us. George Norrie here. Jonathan, the Bible kind of makes a hint of Osama bin Laden. Tell me about that.
Yeah, this is in the template that I'm mentioning that the Avatar is opening up. That's from the Book of Kings. This is an ancient mystery that has all the prototypes of people on the world stage now, and it's mind-boggling. With bin Laden, there's an ancient figure named Ben Hadad. Almost sounds similar. He's an enemy of the land, and he's actually the one who brings that event. When I told you about that 3-year thing to 9/11, that 9/11 that happened in ancient times, that strike that gave us the time of 9/11. This guy is behind it. This guy was the enemy of the land. Well, after he brings this destruction on the land, what happens is he goes on, and then because this is Ben Hadad, through a courier he ends up getting assassinated. Now, Ben Laden gets assassinated because they tracked his courier. The Ben Hadad, the ancient one, is assassinated while he's in his bedroom. Bin Laden assassinated when he's in his bedroom. The timing of Ben Hadad's assassination, it happens 10 years after he brings this calamity on the nation. Well, 10 years after 9/11, September 11th, this is 2001, it's 2011, and that is when Bin Laden is assassinated, exactly to the template.
No way.
Truly remarkable. Do you think our leaders read the Bible to pick this stuff up?
No.
I don't think they pick this stuff up, but But I mean, there are some who read the Bible, and I know, I see them. I've seen them on Capitol Hill who do, and there's good people there as well. But I don't think most of them. I don't think most of them are getting this. And I think the amazing thing, George, is that with all these mysteries, I mean, from 9/11, from the Harbinger on to the Avatar, is that the people who are doing it are really doing it without having no idea.
Yeah.
Whether you're talking about Trump or whether you're talking about any of these leaders. I do know there are people on Capitol Hill who read my books, but
England's in a lot of trouble, isn't it?
But just reading it themselves, I don't think so. But that makes it even more amazing because they're not trying to put it together, but it still goes together.
Back to the calls. John in Wisconsin. Hi, John. Go ahead.
Hello, George. Hello, Rabbi Jonathan.
Hi.
Excellent topic and guest. I have a brief comment and question. In my 68 years on this earth, I have never seen such hostility, anger, disrespect for our president, disrespect for our neighbors, people walking away from their problems, blaming others for their problems. It's really quite disheartening. My question is this. Are these all relevant signs that we are closer to the return of Jesus, or are we just experiencing an unfortunate season that will eventually bring some harmony to our dysfunctional culture? Thank you, Rabbi, and George, thank you for taking my call.
Thank you, John.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things it is indicative of is that we are a divided nation. I mean, I don't, it's been said we have not been this divided since the Civil War, how it is right now. So it's almost like you see two Americas. One is going in one direction. One is seeking to hold back, or preserve certain values that America has had, and that also goes with biblical values as well. The other is seeking to overturn it. And so you've got this thing. Now, which way it's going to go is the big issue. Is it going to go back? Is it going to return to God? That's where the hope is. Or is it going to...
Diane, Iceland would have been too cold for Aussies, wouldn't they? Now it's not.
Totally overturned. And then what happened in these templates that I'm giving you, or these things for the Avatar and the war.
Rabbi Johnathon Cahn joins us with his latest work, The Avatar, The Return of the Ancients and Future of America. And we'll talk some prophecy in just a moment on Coast to Coast AM.
Yeah.
And welcome back to Coast. George Norrie with you. Jonathan Cahn back with us, was named, along with Billy Graham, as one of the most spiritual leaders to have radically impacted the world, having spoken on Capitol Hill, the United Nations, and the millions around the world. Noted author. His latest work is called The Avatar, The Return of the Ancients and the Future of America. Jonathan, welcome back, my friend.
Great to be back, George. Always a blessing.
How have you been, Rabbi?
Good. Bit crazy, busy, running around, with the books and everything else, but good.
I remember back a few years ago when we debuted you with The Harbinger, that book took off like a rocket ship, didn't it?
Yeah. It was the first book I ever wrote. I mean, yeah.
How did you get interested in biblical prophecy?
Good question.
Well, first of all, George, I was originally an atheist, and growing up in a Jewish home, and when I was about 8 years old, I became an atheist. I said, okay, I don't see God here, so I just didn't believe. But then I said, there's got to be more. There's got to be something to everything. There's got to be a reason. So I started seeking everything I could find on truth. I got books on UFOs, books on Nostradamus, books on science, religion. One day I picked up a book that was called The Late Great Planet Earth by Hal Lindsey. And it was all about biblical prophecy that is coming true now. I never heard anything like it before. That actually in the Bible, it speaks of what is called the end times. And it's actually coming true with a real current event. So I just never heard that. So that just totally changed my mind. I started telling my friends about it and the whole thing. But I never wanted to actually follow God. I had a rock band. I was doing what a teenager does and all that. And so I made a deal with God. I said, if you give me a long life, I'll accept you when I'm on my deathbed. And soon after that, I almost got killed twice.
Oh,
and the second time, I was hit by a locomotive train. I was heading to a track, and I see a light. Everybody was crossing. I figured maybe it was broken, but I didn't want to cross until. Anyway, I tried to back up, but it was just crazy. Anyway, so the train came, plowed into a Ford Pinto, which was like aluminum foil, and I just called out to God. The car was destroyed. and I didn't get a scratch. So I said, okay, I'll make a new deal with you. You know, can we renegotiate here? I'll accept you when I turn 20. So my 20th birthday, not knowing how to do anything. I just said, I remember Moses went up a mountain. So I found a mountain. I went up to the top of it, kneeled down, gave my life to the Lord. And that's how it really began. And so it really started from an atheist, started with the reality of end time prophecy, that things are happening, and it hasn't stopped. It hasn't stopped since then.
It's gotten even more intense, hasn't it?
Totally. I mean, you know, it's barely, I don't know that a day goes by where I don't see more and more and more. George, I always think I'm gonna, like, okay, I'm gonna run out. Is there gonna be nothing? It never runs out because it just keeps happening. And we are truly in pivotal times.
Jonathan, your new book is called The Avatar, The Return of the Ancients and the Future of America. Explain the title for us.
Yeah, well, first of all, an avatar is, we hear this a lot. It's not the movie. There's a computer. We use it with computers, but.
Okay, that's Lubin, guys. We already heard that. Where is he? Yeah, this looks good. Where is it? Hang on. Oh, hang on, guys. I haven't loaded it. Okay. Right, that one. No, still an ad.
I don't know why I avoided this topic.
Got it. No.
Same thing, but bigger. They're going to end up. Some have already wondered if we have reached singularity. This is Tony. Hope you're all doing well. We've seen so many strange things of recent happening around us with AI data centers or AI hellscapes. We'll get into that. It's actually kind of interesting how you're paying for these data centers that are going to take your jobs. We'll get into all that. We also have a number of other things to get into. We have something coming towards Earth, and now we're starting to see some very bizarre connections with regards to it. With even the debt clock, they showed a symbol of Atlas holding up the world. We have this 3-eye Atlas coming towards Earth. We had the feed cut on Mars, but apparently now we got leaked the actual feed from the Japanese Space Agency. We'll get into that. And we have some weird connections I'm going to get into where it could be something much bigger.
Guys, I think this Atlas, I'm not sure what to make of it. It's got a lot of support, but like Diane said, there's no photographs or anything. So I'm sort of torn whether to believe it.
So we're actually going to be seeing here on Earth, could it be a ship? This is what one person's predicting. The guy who predicted that our president, his ear would be grazed when they tried to take him, of course, out. You remember that guy, Brandon Biggs? I can show you his face right here. He's now predicting that it is a ship, okay? And we got some other weird stuff we're going to get into. Stephen Greer, what he's saying. And a ton of other stuff. We're going to get into the Book of Enoch and how that even could relate to this and much more. Let's just get into this. We'll start here. Check this out. I thought this was a pretty hilarious clip. This guy's describing the AI hellscape they're creating for us.
Do you guys remember that episode of Magnum P.I. where he asked TC to take the chopper up because there was this weird, evil billionaire nerd with a giant underground bunker in Hawaii?
You do have a bunker there. Is there something you know that we don't?
No, I think that's just like a little shelter under.
It was going to turn entire states into computing centers to program the people.
Hey, Kelly, so this is Zuckerberg's most aggressive play yet in the race to build superintelligence, that is AI systems that can outperform humans.
While getting the people to have to pay for the thing that would actually enslave them, So Magnum decided to just fly over top of the whole thing so the world.
Of course, there was no Magnum PI episode like that back in the 1980s. But indeed, we are living in this weird episode, this sci-fi movie. Perhaps the Matrix, would be turned into batteries for this AI data center. No joke. I mean, actually, I didn't even think about it, but now I'm starting to think that you're already paying for it with your power bill. I can show you that. I guess next you'll be paying for it with your own, I don't know, your heat or something that you produce. I don't know what's going on here, dude. Let me show you that.
If you live in any of these states, your electric bill is higher this summer. It's not because of anything you did. You're paying more because the world's biggest tech companies are building so many data centers.
I do guess that a lot of the world gets covered in data centers over time, but I don't know, because maybe put them in space.
Is this something where we are committed to building out data centers across our 60 regions? We are absolutely going to.
Big tech.
They tried that years ago. They called it the Australia card. Put the license, your Medicare number on it, your bank savings.
Yeah, so
you get them, mate.
Sam Altman there. And then you had the Microsoft CEO. You got Sam Altman here. We talked about him before. We showed an interview of him with the Tuckmeister, where they're talking about one of his previous employees, who supposedly was his friend, who mysteriously died in a very weird way, who was standing against Sam Altman, saying, hey, we shouldn't be taking all this code from our competitor. This is illegal. This is unethical. Next thing you know, the guy's dead. I don't know. Of course, Sam Altman said it was just a tragedy. It was just, I don't want to get into all of it here, but it was very obvious that something is not right. And do you trust this guy with your future, with your AI future? Do you trust him to not take your job? I mean, the guy doesn't, honestly, I really don't think he cares at all. Matter of fact, we have articles where he says AI could kill us all, but it's great to make money while doing it right now. You know what I mean? So, I mean, he's got articles like that. I can literally show it to you if you need to. I mean, you just go pull it up, just type it in Google and you'll see it. But yeah, so you got all that. You got companies already replacing you with AI. Check this out. Mark Zuckerberg, 50% of coding will be done by AI next year.
All our projects are probably all written by software. What about you guys?
The big one that we're focused on is building an AI and a machine learning engineer to advance the llama development itself, right? Because I mean, our bet is sort of that in the next year, probably, I don't know, maybe.
Zuckerberg, that's Jewish, isn't it? Is he Jewish?
Half the development is going to be done by AI as opposed to people, and then that will just kind of increase from there.
So, of course, you have also Amazon coming out and saying that they're going to automate 75% of operations, avoiding hiring 600,000 U.S. workers by 2033. Internal documents obtained by the New York Times reveals Amazon's strategy to automate most of its operations. And they don't need you anymore. Of course, the thing that they don't really think about.
I never knew that,
Voss.
Voss.
There you has a bunker. It's kind of interesting. He just says it's a vacation pad. It's not really a bunker. Even though it's got a bunker within the bunker. I've shown it before on video, I think a couple of years back.
Is he a Jew, Voss?
He literally has a bunker inside the bunker. So this sounds like Umbrella Corporation from Resident Evil or something. What's he expecting? The zombie apocalypse? 3-Eye Atlas to be the mothership? Is he thinking that it's going to become like the Matrix or Terminator? The robots are going to be in charge and he's going to need the bunker to be protected. I don't know what he's thinking. I don't know what he's doing here. Knows that the rapture's coming. We have oh yeah, I showed that article on my other channel. I thought this is pretty interesting. Where did it go? Here it is. No, this isn't it. Let me pull it up again. I don't know. I must have closed it again. So you had, of course, a co-founder, OpenAI. This is from Vice magazine. OpenAI co-founder wanted a doomsday bunker in case AGI, or essentially sort of like an AI general intelligence or supreme intelligence, caused the rapture. What in the hell is going on here? You know what I mean? Like, what is this stuff? Maybe there is something they know about that we don't know. That's why they're building all these weird bunkers. That's a good question. We have, like I said, we're going to get into a ton, so we're just getting going here. I just wanted to show you that real quick. But We're going to get into actually a ton more. First, I'm going to mention food supply, 25-year shelf life. Link is in the description. 4 months worth for $6.97. You're going to definitely want that in your bunker when the Matrix or Terminator or whatever happens next happens. Link is in the description. Of course, this book here, The Lost Ways, how your great-great-grandfather lived without electricity, how to build a cellar, do things around the house as he did in the old days. The fact is, you might need that. Never know. Be out in the mountains, avoiding the 3-eye atlas or whatever, or the robots, whatever it might be. Link is in the description for that. Go check out all my other links below to all my other social media.
So I've seen Zuckerberg saying in an interview he's not human. I've literally seen him say that.
And, of course, let's just get back to the video.
And that was a few years ago, so it wasn't AI.
Have so many things going on. Automation for jobs. I think this is an AI bubble, though. I think they're going to find out this AI is not as good as they thought it was. It's going to make a lot of mistakes. They're going to end up needing people again. I really do think that's going to happen. I think it's like the internet bubble, but bigger. Remember the dot-com bubble? I think it's going to be the same thing, but bigger. They're going to end up wasting a ton of money. But by the way, OpenAI is hemorrhaging debt, and they're selling to those who invest in their company. So they buy from the companies that invest in them. NVIDIA invests in them. They go buy their chips. You see what I mean? So it's like a circular thing. It's clearly not a stable market. And then you got all these weird things as a result of this. Now we got this clip here. This is kind of funny. So we're getting a little bit of lighter thing here. We have Whoopi Goldberg on The View getting triggered over a president posting an AI meme. Check this out.
Can you bring up the wait, hold on. Can you bring up the thing? Because he put something up the other day. Yeah. You see this?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Somebody who is building something like this.
I'm going to be alive in some of these years.
To get out of
AI Trump.
That's the thing. He intends to pay attention to this because he's going to try.
I like this right here. Forever. President forever and ever. It's going to be like Jeff Bezos. He's going to have his brain be put into some robot, and I'm going to live forever. I don't think so, actually. But a lot of people are thinking that the singularity is here, my friends. We have this. I wanted to play this really quick. Sora outpace Chat GPT. We have AI is solving the entire thing with math. Check this out.
It sort of feels like we're in the midst of continuous event horizons.
We all agree on this podcast that we're right in the middle of the singularity at this moment.
I think it's increasingly likely that the singularity is an optical illusion. It's an optical illusion that appears at a distance. It looks like a vertical asymptote, but when you're in the middle of it,
I don't understand what a singularity is.
as I increasingly suspect we are, feels quite continuous.
If you froze technology today and just assimilated what we invented in the last 2 years, it would take decades to realize all the implications.
GPT-5 Pro sets record.
What does this say? We manually evaluated 3 compute-intensive model settings on the extremely hard math benchmark, Frontier Math Tier 4 Battle Royale. GPT Pro set new record, 13% edging out Gemini 2.5 DeepThink by a single problem, not statistically significant. Grok 4 heavy lags. So this is interesting. They're saying that they're actually solving a lot of mysteries in math. I mean, this is like a total geek podcast I was playing there, but the fact is, you can see, obviously, there's the issue of them taking our jobs, and far worse things could potentially come out of this. We have AI safety experts coming out warning about this. I mean, James Cameron himself doesn't even want to make another Terminator movie because he's concerned it might actually become real. That's how bad it is. And the weird part is this AI Atlas, 3i, not AI, AI in my head here. 3i Atlas, where apparently when it went past Mars, NASA turned off the feed, but now we have this alleged leak from the Japanese Space Agency of what it actually looks like. I don't know if this is legit or not. I haven't seen any community notes to counter this yet, but I don't want want to play the music either because I literally got a copyright. As you can see here, look, it's got lights on it. Whatever this is, there's lights changing on it as it goes by. That's weird. I don't know if this is legit or not.
If that's legit, we're in trouble, guys.
It could be legit. Who knows? The fact is, yeah, I got a copyright off 4 seconds of music on another video. It was really irritating. So I don't want to play anything anymore like that. So you got this picture here, and I haven't seen any community notes correcting it yet, that it's not legit. But they're claiming this is a leak from Japanese Space Agency as to what it looks like. Interesting. I don't know. So I don't see any community notes yet. So maybe it is legit. I guess we'll find out in time. But there is a weird prediction. This is something I wanted to show you guys. Also going to play something from Stephen Greer. He was on the Sean Ryan show regarding a certain blue, of course, beam project. You've heard of that. And he goes into detail about that. I'll play that after I play this clip from Brandon Biggs, the guy who predicted our president would be, his ear would be grazed, right? This is the same guy that predicted that.
And that's what's going to make everybody freak out. It's going to be something that's going to be on TV. It's going to move across the ocean, and people are going to freak out.
Then we got massive sightings happening up all over the place, and these things are actually getting up close right now.
So there's a lot of UAPs that are being seen in various places.
Those ain't no candlelight, John.
That's, of course, in Cleveland, Ohio, I'm assuming. So you got all these weird sightings. We've seen them since about a year ago. Was it December of last year when it was in New Jersey and other cities? Then we have this weird post by the usdebtclock.org showing some rather curious things in this image. Okay, and I have a lady here that explains and breaks it all down. All right, let me play this. Let's get to the right spot. Here we go.
Since America. Now we've got the eagle right there over America, where we've got the Aleph Tav signs and the Revelation 12 sign over America. These are all biblical signs where Jesus says the signs will be in the sun, moon, and the stars, referencing his return. Now, I wanted to go over this symbol because yesterday I was like, I don't know what that is. Looks like maybe an angel blowing a horn, but what it actually is Atlas. And the US Dead Clock has been showing us Atlas several times, which was this US Dead Clock message. We've got Atlas, and it says it right there. So coming back to the elevation Dead Clock message that we saw yesterday, we see Atlas right there in the sky, along with all of the other planetary alignments from the Revelation 12 sign, right? They could have placed Atlas anywhere on this message, but they placed it right there, right about where Mars is.
Okay, so this is interesting. Now, this is usdebtclock.org. It's not like it's some religious website. And you can see here, they have Atlas, like 3i Atlas, next to Mars, which is where it just went. And then, of course, the feed was cut. And allegedly, that's the Japanese Space Agency's version of it. I don't know if it's true or not. You have here, of course, the Revelation 12 sign shown in the constellation. You can see the alignment right here. You got Mars right there. When it says, you've heard the phrase, the stars align for you. It's referring to wandering stars, referring to the planets. We saw this at the birth of the King of Kings. We're talking Jesus in 3 BC in September, I think on the 11th. And then you've seen it more recently in 2017 on September something. Was it 27 or 3rd or something? So this is pointing to a demarcation date when something changes.
Pete's an HR manager. And it looks like he's just found the world's first employment operating system. Now he can do all his employment stuff in one place. Lunchtime cravings kicking in? Relieve them with Nicorette, the #1 stop smoking brand in Australia.
Ladies and gentlemen, please make sure your seat backs and tray table are in their upright position. We will be.
Could this be a sign that something big is going to happen? Is this all connected? That's the question. You can already see a little bit of a strange connections there just from that video.
Good night, Shawnee. God bless.
There. So you got Dr. Stephen Greer here talking about this certain project, Blue, of course, Beam, right? And check this out.
And so that psychological warfare was authorized in 1953, 54. 1954, we mastered gravity control. So we started deploying these assets to begin to condition the public that there's a scary threat from outer space. Mm-hmm. I mean, look at Hollywood, Alien, Ridley Scott's, the movies. If you want to see a script for what's coming fairly soon, look at the movie Independence Day.
Okay, check that out, dude. So, okay, this 3-eye atlas is the size of a city. Independence Day had a very, very, very massive ship the size of a city, over an entire city.
Yeah.
Remember that movie with Will Smith?
Yep.
Perhaps he's referring to that.
Right at a central casting for this covert group. So what their whole purpose is to create sort of a global militarized totalitarian superstate
with AI running everything. It sounds like The Matrix or Terminator 2 or who knows? I mean, any of these shows.
World fighting another world.
Yeah, that's interesting. So of course, then they can I just took off my mic. Then they can pass the blame to someone else, like aliens. They can blame the aliens for it. So again, this always comes back to some sort of deception. I feel like perhaps what's going on with this 3-eye atlas, I don't know. It's very strange. Looking at it, apparently it just reversed its tail when it got near the sun. So it had its tail backwards compared to other comets, and then it flipped it to the normal way. Apparently, it doesn't give off much water. It gives off these very weird things that no other comets do. It's actually changed its direction and acceleration at various times. It doesn't behave like a normal comet. And the question is, what really is it? Again, we have the Book of Enoch as well, which I wanted to get into. We had this man here, Wes Huff, saying that the Book of Enoch was written, around the time of Christ, or maybe a little bit before that. That's basically what he says. And this is not accurate. This is the problem I have with modern day dating. They don't literally believe what the text says. They don't believe what the text says. They try to guess when they think it was written based on various sources and evidence, archaeological evidence that can be discovered. So let's say something was actually from 5000 BC, and it was written many times and copied throughout those thousands of years, and then we discovered a copy in, let's say, 3 BC. That's its age based on the archaeological evidence. The modern historian will say, well, then it must have been written in 3 BC. Even though it could have been copied for thousands of years and actually was written in 5000 BC. See what I mean? This is the problem I have with how they date today. If they don't have the evidence, they don't believe it. Basically, it's their attitude. You have here Wes Huff saying the Book of Enoch is no earlier than the 3rd century BC. That was around the time that the Greek Septuagint was written. Some of its contents could very well come from the 1st century AD. That's hilarious. It was not written by or in the time of Enoch. This is what he claims. Although theologically significant, is telling. So essentially, he's saying that Jude is either lying about the text itself, or he's claiming that the modern Book of Enoch that we have in our hands is not the same one that Jude quotes. Either way, you can't really make an argument for this. You can't actually make a legitimate argument from his standpoint. Either he's saying to you that Jude lied. We're talking about the Book of Jude, where it actually quotes from the Book of Enoch. He's either telling you that Jude flat out lied and that it really wasn't written by Enoch when Jude said it was, or he's saying to you, no, actually, this is just a different book that claims to be from the book of Enoch. And actually, the original book of Enoch has been lost. Either way, I think it's not a legitimate argument because he has no evidence that it's been lost. Where's his archaeological evidence proving? So he, by default, doesn't believe the text of the Bible because the Bible tells you it was Enoch that wrote it. And you would have to give at least a fair shake to the ancient document that's here today. But he doesn't want to do that. We have here Timothy Alvarino. The book of Enoch is not extra-biblical. On the contrary, it is foundational to Hebrew cosmology, the claims of Jesus Christ, and the eschatological worldview of his apostles. You simply cannot separate the Enochian narrative from the Old and New Testaments of the Bible, which, of course, that's what a lot of modern-day Protestants and actually Catholics, or a lot of them do, is they separate them. This is what I talked about with regards to beware of the scribes and the Pharisees. In Jesus' time, 2,000 years ago, he came to earth. There was a lot of religious leaders that thought they knew everything. They had their theological paradigms. Jesus came and said, no, you guys are all wrong about what you're saying. They didn't like it. They didn't like what he had to say. He said, beware of the scribes, those that write the scriptures and the ones that teach the scriptures. This is basically what he was saying. You cannot simply separate the Enochian narrative apart from the historical account of the fall of the angelic watchers and their giant man-eating progeny. The book of Enoch contains some of the most profound messianic prophecies ever recorded. I mean, Second Ezra is awesome as well. Prophecies that are undoubtedly fulfilled in the ministry and person of Jesus. So, I mean, this is a good point from Timothy Alvarino. You have here Representative Anna Paulina Luna reading, or actually, I don't know if she read it. She talks about the book of Enoch with Joe Rogan in this clip here. Check this out.
Imagine a world in which if Enoch was left in the Bible and people were like, wait, what happened? Like, explain the nuttiness of the book of Enoch to people.
Well, it's okay. So if you read it, it talks about the fall of angels, thus creating really the precursor civilization that led to the first flood. I think that when you even go into potentially the technology that was given to mankind by these angels, it talks about the hidden.
What's interesting is, could these quote unquote aliens be part of this? Could they actually be? See, this is what I'm saying about the devil likes to separate things. He separates science and religion. They're completely separate, nothing related whatsoever, when in reality they are 100% related. And they intentionally are separated so you cannot make heads or tails of anything. That's the entire point of it. These beings are actually interdimensional, not interplanetary. Perhaps maybe they are planetary as well, but they are definitely interdimensional because they are from a spiritual realm. This is what I've been trying to say. I think when we talk about these topics, we see sort of a separation with the religion and science. We see this with a lot of topics in society. This is all deliberate and intentional by the devil, of course. So then you got this here. Are there any pseudepigraphical or apocryphal writings that cite or reference the book of Enoch? Yes, there are apocryphal and pseudepigraphical writings that reference it. Jubilees, we have the book of Jubilees, which is 2nd century BC. You have here the Testaments of 12 patriarchs, 2nd century BC. Now, you have 2nd Baruch. Now, what's interesting is, again, what does Westhoff do? He simply goes off the archaeological evidence. He does not go off what if we don't have the evidence that goes far enough back to actually reference it. Like I said, you could have a writing from 2,000 years ago, or no, from 2000 BC, and because we don't have any archaeological evidence for it, they don't believe it. They just simply don't believe it. If it says that Moses wrote it, they don't believe it. That's what's going on here. So West has a problem here because the book of Jubilees is claimed to be from Moses. Okay? When do the writers of the book of Jubilees claim the book of Jubilees was written? Initially, it internally claims that it was written by Moses his 40 days on Mount Sinai. Well, that's thousands of years before Christ. Okay? And the book of Jubilees references the book of Enoch. That would indicate that Enoch's book was written thousands of years before Christ. But again, Westhoff ignores these things and goes off modern day scholarship, which rejects the claims of these books. This is not what I would call Christian or biblical, but they do this all the time. And so, and this is what I was saying with regards to another topic. And I don't want to get into this topic here really so much because I did on my other on a previous video, but the topic of gays and the whole rainbow and all that stuff. I got into how the devil got into the church to get a certain doctrine in place so that it would lead to all the problems that we see in our society. So all these rifts in our society, like science versus religion, left versus right, all these things are created by the devil in some respects. And I could show you with the rainbow or with the gay topic, that is indeed the case, because we have, and I'm not going to get into all of it here, but even Jesus said some are naturally born eunuchs. And so what happened here is it's a very simple argument, but I even tried to explain it to my mom and she kind of got it, but still didn't get it. Gay people always existed. They may not exist in the ancient past in the form that you see them today, but what I'm saying is the person that, let's say a guy that doesn't like women existed thousands of years ago as they do today. It's not some modern invention, okay? It's something that's been around for thousands of years. However, the way that they're dealt with or taught today, or how we are taught to think about it today, is completely different than how they thought about it in the ancient past. In the ancient past, they were called eunuchs, and they wouldn't marry the opposite sex, and they would usually be single. And they were often, like in many cases, they would be hired to be protectors of the harem for a king, because obviously they have no interest in women because they're not attracted to them. So they're the perfect guy to protect them, right? It makes perfect sense. They also tend to be in sort of the royal palace doing artistic stuff and random things that seem to be sort of their ilk anyways. You notice gay people tend to be more artistic and things of that nature. That's also the case in the ancient past. Again, the difference is, though, I think the devil got into the church and said, there is no such thing as a eunuch. Even though you'll hear people talk about it, it's never connected. It's like dinosaurs and dragons. Dinosaurs and dragons are never connected. They're, one's fiction and one's real. Dinosaurs are science and real. Dragons are fake. It's like this. One's real. Gay's real. Eunuchs are fake. You see what I mean? Religion's fake and science is real. You see what I mean? This is what I'm saying. It's a separation thing going on. In reality, a dragon is a dinosaur. A eunuch is a gay person. The only difference is, what are they being taught? What are they doing with their lives? How are they being programmed with their mind? How are you being programmed to be against them or for them or whatever? You see what I mean? So a eunuch was not someone that was everyone was against. Like people that were religious back then didn't think really anything about it. They just knew they were eunuchs. They didn't say, we hate eunuchs or anything. They didn't do that. So you see what I mean? This was intentionally designed to be a rift and cause this massive cultural divide. When in reality, in the ancient past, there was no cultural divide on this. It didn't exist because they weren't taught to be a certain way. You weren't taught to think a certain way about them. You see what I mean? But what happens on this topic is a lot of people in the church, they just get stuck on this. They can't, it's like they can't absorb it. They're like, but wait a sec, but they can't be gay. Like they just keep getting stuck on this whole gay thing. It's like really funny, actually. Look, you're not supposed to go to there yet. You're supposed to realize these two are the same. Dragons or dinosaurs. Put it together first and then worry about how it works afterwards. Don't go, well, wait a second, dragons are fake and dinosaurs are real. It's like, wait a second, gays are not the same as eunuchs because gays do this and eunuchs don't do that. You don't do that. What you do is you say, okay, obviously gay people existed in the ancient past. They were called eunuchs. Okay, put the two together. Now figure out what it's supposed to be. Don't go, wait a second, I got a problem. You know what I mean? This is what I noticed happens in the church is they can't ever get past this point. Once you get past that point of putting dragon and dinosaur together, science and religion together, eunuch and gay together, then you can go to the next point. What does that mean? How do we fix this problem? How do we get back to society being where there wasn't this ridiculous rift and everything going crazy? How do you get back to that? That's the answer you're looking for. Anyway, that's my video. I'm kind of wondering what some of you guys think. Let me know in the comments.
Okay.
Where to from here? What's going?
Folks, a meta-analysis of 23 controlled trials show that people taking UFOs are real, burgeoning, and not going away. Coming to you from an undisclosed location in the Santa Monica Mountains, I am your intrepid host, L.A. Marzulli, back from a week off of vacation, but we still do shows anyway because we do a show here every day. And if something really intense happens, I have my cameras with us and we will give you an update. In fact, I did one update from the undisclosed location on the Panhandle in Florida. But we're back in studio, somewhere deep in the heart of the Santa Monica Mountains. We're talking about 3I Atlas. And you can see astrophysicist that says attack from potentially hostile alien threat could take place in just days. Is this fear mongering? Is it hyperbole? We're going to delve into that. But first, a word from our very trusted sponsor. Folks, a meta-analysis of 23 controlled trials show that people taking collagen supplements saw real improvements in skin
Gonna love to hear what he thinks about AI Atlas.
hydration, elasticity, and reductions in wrinkle depth. That means collagen isn't just a beauty fad. It's one of the most studied supplements proven to actually change how your skin looks and feels. This is why I use it every single day. Ageless multi-collagen. Folks, I love the way it makes my skin look. It supercharges my skin with 5 types of premium collagen needed to help reduce wrinkles. Since I started drinking collagen daily, I've noticed smoother skin, more elasticity, fewer lines, and a youthful glow. And at 75 years old, I definitely need it. Plus, it also helps improve my joint health, bone strength, and connective tissues. Grab a bag of Ageless Multi-Collagen, 51% off at healthwithla.com. That's www.healthwithla.com and start experiencing real results. Plus, they have a promotion right now that includes free VIP live health and fitness coaching for life, a free ebook titled The 14 Foods for Amazing Skin, a 60-day, think about this, folks, a 60-day satisfaction guarantee and free shipping with every order. Once again, folks, healthwithla.com. That's healthwithla.com. Okay, so we have to talk about this because we've never had anything like it that I'm aware of. So we're going to broach the subject. Before I get into that, I was playing golf with my friend Don Coons and Dave Wilkinson. And actually, Dave wasn't with us that day. So it was just Don and me, and this gentleman, won't mention his name, joined us. So we had a threesome. And he was asking, well, what do you do? I said, well, I make films and write books. And that immediately piqued his interest. And he goes, well, what do you write? What are the films about? I go, well, a lot of things about the Nephilim. And he had no idea what that was. I said, well, we have a 10-part DVD series on UFOs. And am I kidding you? Don's a witness. He basically took a step back, started looking around. And I went, well, it's okay. It's okay. We're not going to go there. It's okay. So before I even get to this article, which is the 22nd of October, so it's, it's pretty recent, right? And I want to thank our friend Bill, who sends me stuff all the time. Bill's a friend of the show and gives me links like this. So let's walk into it if we can. This man on the golf course had been programmed for decades with an ongoing, all types of media, print media, film media, just everything. That if you talk about UFOs, you're a tinfoil hat wearing guy, you're a kook, you're a crank, there's something wrong with you. This is why in our abduction film, I'm going to go down a rabbit trail here. In our abduction film, the introduction to that abduction film, you hear me talk about people are afraid, people who are abducted are afraid, they're alone, they can't talk to anyone, they live in fear, and where do you go with this? And this guy on the golf course was a perfect illustration of that. The moment I even mentioned UFOs, he took a step back and started looking around. And I've seen this before, so I know what to look for. I know that guys like this have been, and I hate to use the word, but they have been conditioned through the media, all forms of media, that if you talk about the subject, you're a kook, you're a tinfoil hat guy, You're not dealing with a full deck. Well, I've been doing this for well over 30 years. And this is the coming great deception. I did a whole presentation at the Prophecy Watchers conference a while back. By the way, thank you, all the folks at Prophecy Watchers that came up to the table, and we really appreciate the fellowship that we had there. Thank you, Bob Ulrich, to Gary Stearman, Madhu Gonzalez, and all the ladies of Prophecy Watchers were just incredible. Hats are off to them, too. A big shout out to them. But the halls,
3 hours old, boss.
Of Congress are talking about this. And at the Prophecy Watchers conference, I went through this. I said, in Congress just a couple of weeks ago, before the Prophecy Watchers conference, so in Congress, they showed a clip, and I did a whole show on it here. You can go see it. A UFO is glowing, and it's coming down. They're tracking this thing, and they fire a Hellfire missile at it. The Hellfire missile just glances off of it and breaks apart. How is it possible? How is that possible? And they have no explanation for it. Our military has no explanation for what we are seeing. The fact is, it's a dog and pony show. They never really go anywhere. And I'll say it again, what President Trump needs to do, if he really wants to get to the bottom of it, okay, is to get 500 of the best of the best of the best. SEALs, special forces, special ops, the best of the best. Break them up. 250 go to Wright Pat, 250 go to Area 51. As far as I know, there's no sitting president that has ever gone to Area 51. So what's there? Well, you don't have a need to know. Exactly. Need to know basis. And you...
Well, Trump did go to Fort Knox, so he's not shy of doing things like this.
The president have no need to know. Now, that's conjecture on my part. Maybe some of the presidents do know. I have no idea. But right, Pat, we know, and in our film, in our 10-box DVD set, I don't have it in front of me, but you can go to lamarzulli.com and see it for yourself, or you can streaming at lamarzulli.net. 10-box DVD set, our film on Roswell, we sat down and I'm doing this interview with a gentleman, and he's talking about the records being flown to Wright Pat. I mean, how many times do we have to hear this before we begin to realize that there is a hidden agenda? The phenomenon is real, and now we have this astrophysicist says attack for potentially hostile alien threat could take place in just days. So before we even get into this, I do not engage in hyperbole like some shows do. I just don't do it. I try to get to the truth of the matter, get to the bottom of what we're seeing, and just the facts. Now, sometimes I go out on a limb. When I do that, I'll say this is conjecture on my part. Like, for instance, when we did our first show on three Eye Atlas, I said, well, Atlas is a Nephilim, right? Greek god holding the world on his shoulder. So are they signaling something here with the snake? I don't know. This is conjecture. I'll do it again. 3 third eye. Are they signaling to us? Are they telegraphing us that this is a global event, Atlas, right? Holding the globe on his shoulder. This is a global event that will enlighten humanity. Now, that's complete conjecture on my part, and I get that. But what if it's true? And this thing is heating up, which is why we're covering it in the first place. The comet 3I Atlas, which many still believe to be a form of alien spacecraft, may reveal its origin as it passes behind the sun out of view. This is the 22nd of October. The potentially hostile alien threat that has been taking the internet by storm since its discovery in July may soon reveal its origin as it hides behind the sun. 3I Atlas, an incredibly rare comet from outside our solar system, has baffled scientists since it was first spotted earlier this year, with many people firmly believing the object to be actual proof of alien life. Now, on Nino Rodriguez's show, there was a gentleman and a woman entrenched in New Age paradigm, New Age belief, which is fine. Look, we're not going to discourage people on the show. We just don't do that here. We don't go, we just don't do that. They're entitled to believe what they want to believe, okay? If you believe that the Anunnaki are extraterrestrial visitors, that's your belief. I believe that they're fallen angels. In fact, we're going to have a guest on who's written the book on the Anunnaki, and I think you'll find it very interesting when we bring her on. This theory is currently being put to the test as the comet has recently hit solar conjunction, which is a fancy way of describing when a comet or planet is on the opposite side of the sun. So why does this actually matter? Well, how the object, which has previously been confirmed to be a comet, behaves while approaching the sun could help piece together what 3I Atlas is made of, and crucially, provide hints as to where it might have come from. So when comets approach the sun, they get hotter and start releasing volatile gases and dust from their surface, which is exactly what 3I Atlas appears to have done, while 6.4 AU, I mean, that's like a long way away from the sun. For context, Earth is 1 AU away from the sun. So there's still a fair distance between them. As of yesterday, the 21st of October, the comet has been hiding directly behind the sun and completely out of view from the Earth, which is when the object could do something unusual. If alien-like conspiracy theories are to be believed, according to Harvard professor Avi Loeb. Now, let me just stop you there, okay? Stop us there. So how is it that Avi Loeb just ascends? How does that work? And he's all over the media, print media, film media, news media. He's everywhere. How does that work? How does someone get anointed like a Dr. Fauci? Now, I'm not comparing Avi Loeb with Dr. Fauci. I'm not trying to do that, okay? What I am saying is this. How is it that all of a sudden Avi Loeb is the spokesperson? How is it that we see, George Knapp and Jeremy Corbell, and bully for Jeremy, he's a filmmaker. He did a great job with the Bob Lazar film, and George Knapp has been talking about UFOs for decades, and George Knapp was testified in front of Congress a while back. So, but why are these people elevated? And I'm not saying, well, I want to be elevated. I'm not saying that. The Lord has me in a nice little comfortable place. And if that's we have a following of 256,000 people on YouTube. Our numbers grow. We get emails every single day from people thanking for what we do. So we have a vibrant, ministry. When we sound the alarm, like my hymn is on the plow. But I'm always curious. All of a sudden, Avi Loeb is a household word. How does that happen? A household word, a household name. How does that happen? So let's continue. IFL science reports that Loeb says that if the object is actually of alien origin, it might choose to do an O-berth maneuver. I have no idea what that is. By using the sun's gravity to alter its course and speed. He wrote in a Q&A that from an engineer's perspective, a mothership that releases mini probes would perform this maneuver to slow down at perihelion and intercept Earth. Now, this is way beyond my pay grade. We need Mondo Gonzalez here or Brad Brady here. Both of those guys have telescopes and they're familiar with these terms. I am not. So I'm a neophyte. So let's continue. Taking advantage of the sun's gravitational assist, adding that the amount of power required to perform such a thing depends on the mass of the mini probe, and that the mini probe could potentially reach the Earth within a few months after perihelion. If Loeb's theory is incorrect, and it is indeed a comet, then it would continue on its merry way through the solar system.
Wow, that's great news about Clinton.
Frankly, that's what I'm banking on.
Could I die? I'm out after this too.
An alien crypt. But I could be wrong, which is why we're covering it. The fact that Avi Loeb is throwing this out, before I left on vacation, before I left to the Prophecy Watchers, we did the PW conference and then we went for 7 days on the Florida Panhandle, which was just fantastic. I talked about the idea of disclosure. And there was, Avi Loeb was on News Nation and with Elizabeth Vargas, and he was talking about this could possibly be a black swan event. In other words, extinction. So Avi Loeb was talking about a black swan event, and this really rattled Elizabeth Vargas. She was freaked. I'm not going to sleep this weekend, Abby. Thanks a lot. And so, what are we looking at here? Well, we know from the biblical prophetic narrative, my Bible's right here, that number one, that's not what comes down. Why? Because we have the prophetic thread that goes from Genesis all the way to Revelation. That prophetic thread shows us that someone is outside having trouble this morning. It's been 2 weeks, almost 2 weeks since I've done a show. I did one show on the Panhandle, but I digress as usual. Is this but I digress? Yes, this is I did. This is a digress coffee mug. So I'm digressing. And let's pick it up where we left off. So the bottom line is this, that something is happening, right? Something is going on. but we don't engage in hyperbole here. What do I think it is? I don't know yet. It's conjecture. This is why at the Prophecy Watchers Conference, when I showed that clip with Elizabeth Vargas and Abby Loeb talking about a Black Swan event, I basically stated, and I'll circle back, prophecy. We've got the biblical prophetic thread from Genesis to Revelation that calls out the beginning from the end with great specificity. And it's the only book on the planet that does that. You could point to Nostradamus, but Nostradamus' quatrains are very fuzzy. You can point to the Hopi prophecies. Maybe some of those are true. But here's one of my favorites. It's Amos 9, 14 and 15. And I have my Bible turned to this. Now, before I even say it, and I'm way down a rabbit trail, rabbit trolls and rabbit trails. We'll get back into this article in just a minute. But Amos 9, 14 and 15 states, I will bring back the captives of my people Israel. They will rebuild the waste cities and inhabit them. They will plant vineyards and drink the wine from them. They will also plant gardens and eat the fruit from them. I will plant them in their land, and never again will they be plucked out of the land I have given them. Let me state this really clearly and emphatically. Israel is God's timepiece.
Yeah.
Israel is God's chosen people. And
We all know that.
That's what they are. Does that mean they're perfect in every way? No. They crucified the Son of God. They will look on him whom they have pierced. That's prophecy. They will look on him whom they have pierced. Who's they? Well, it's the, his blood be upon us and upon our children. People don't like to hear that. I'm not anti-Semitic. I love Israel. I love the children of Israel. I do. I support them, but I don't give them a free pass, folks. I don't. These are the Jews. They're not the Khazarians. These are the Jews. They are God's prophetic timepiece. They still are God's chosen people. So take replacement theology and toss that away. Take your amillennial view and say goodbye to that, because there they are. What are they doing back in the homeland? I will gather my people Israel and plant them back in their homeland, never again to be plucked up. So either God's a liar, or we can't look at Amos 9, and no one ever talks about that. Isn't that interesting, right? So we know that Israel is back in the land, and it is God's prophetic time clock. It isn't interesting, the rise of anti-Semitism. It's just unbelievable. I don't give them a pass. Their government and the people in their government may be just as corrupt, if not more so, than any other government or any other people on the planet. Without Messiah, without being born again and spirit-filled, people die in their sin nature. I am in sin nature. My hope is this, that when Jesus calls us up, and this is extra, okay? When Jesus calls us home in the rapture, and it might be sooner than any of us think, right? Right? When Jesus calls us home in the rapture, we don't arrive in the clouds with him and with our sin nature intact. Remember when Isaiah is taken to the throne room? Woe is me, I am a man of unclean lips. Why is he saying that? He's in the throne room. Surely he should be exalted in the fact, oh my gosh, I'm in the throne room. No. Woe is me, I am a man of unclean lips. Why does he say that? He arrives with his sin